Dr. Elena Reeves squinted at the monitor, her eyes burning from hours of staring at the scrolling data. The radio telescope array had been picking up an unusual signal for weeks, and she was determined to decipher its meaning. As the lead astronomer at the SETI Institute, she had dreamed of this moment her entire career. "Dr. Reeves, you need to see this," her assistant, Tom, called from across the room. His voice trembled with excitement. Elena rushed over, her heart pounding. On Tom's screen, a clear pattern emerged from the chaos of cosmic noise. It was unmistakably artificial, a sequence of prime numbers, repeating with perfect precision. "My God," Elena whispered. "It's them. It's really them." Within hours, news of the signal spread like wildfire. Governments scrambled to respond. Scientists worked around the clock to analyze the data, and the public alternated between excitement and fear. Humanity stood on the precipice of a new era. As days turned into weeks, more information trickled in. The signal originated from a fleet of vessels approaching the solar system at an impossible speed. They would reach Earth in less than a month. Elena found herself at the center of a whirlwind of activity. She briefed presidents and prime ministers, appeared on countless news programs, and worked tirelessly with an international team of scientists to prepare for humanity's first extraterrestrial encounter. "We need to be ready for anything," she stressed during a UN Security Council meeting. But the fact that they're communicating suggests a desire for peaceful contact. Not everyone shared her optimism. General Marcus Blackwood, the U.S. military's liaison to the scientific community, voiced his concerns. "We can't assume their intentions are benevolent. We need to be prepared to defend ourselves." Elena understood his caution but couldn't shake her belief that this was an opportunity for unprecedented growth and understanding. As the day of arrival approached, a sense of anticipation gripped the globe. Governments issued statements calling for calm, while religious leaders grappled with the theological implications of alien life. In every city, crowds gathered in plazas and parks, their eyes turned skyward. Elena stood on the roof of the observatory, surrounded by a forest of antennas and satellite dishes. The night sky sparkled with stars, unchanged for millennia. But tonight, everything would be different. A flash of light caught her attention. At first, she thought it was a shooting star. Then another appeared, and another. Soon, the sky was filled with streaks of blue-white light, descending slowly towards Earth. "They're here," Tom breathed beside her. The alien ships, if that's what they were, didn't land. Instead, they took up positions in low Earth orbit, a constellation of artificial stars now circling the planet. The world held its breath, waiting for their next move. It came in the form of a transmission, broadcast simultaneously on every frequency. Elena and her team worked feverishly to decode it. When they succeeded, she found herself staring at the message in disbelief. "People of Earth," it began, "we come in peace and friendship. We are the Whispers, travelers from a distant star. We have journeyed far to meet you. Drawn by the echoes of your civilization that have reached our world, we wish to share knowledge, to learn from you as you learn from us. Together, we can unlock the secrets of the universe." The message went on, outlining proposals for cultural exchange, scientific cooperation, and mutual understanding. It was everything Elena had ever hoped for. As dawn broke over a changed world, Elena felt a surge of hope. This was humanity's chance to prove itself, to take its place among the stars. The future stretched out before them, full of endless possibilities. But in her excitement, she failed to notice the shadow that passed over General Blackwood's face as he read the Whisper's message. His eyes narrowed, his jaw clenched. Something about this felt wrong, too perfect, too easy. As the world celebrated, he made a silent vow to remain vigilant. The Whispers had arrived, and nothing would ever be the same. But whether their coming heralded a new golden age for humanity or something far more sinister remained to be seen. The stage was set, the players in position, and the true nature of the silent invasion was about to unfold. In the weeks following first contact, Earth buzzed with activity. The arrival of the Whispers had united humanity in a way nothing else ever had. Old conflicts were set aside as nations scrambled to prepare for the impending meeting with their cosmic visitors. Dr. Elena Reeves found herself at the center of it all, coordinating with a global team of scientists, linguists, and diplomats. They worked tirelessly to refine their understanding of the Whispers' language and culture based on the wealth of information shared in subsequent transmissions. "It's remarkable," Elena mused to her assistant Tom as they pored over the latest data. "Their scientific knowledge is centuries beyond ours, yet they seem genuinely eager to learn from us too." Tom nodded, his eyes bright with excitement. "I never thought I'd see anything like this in my lifetime. It's like every sci-fi dream come true." But not everyone shared their enthusiasm. General Blackwood, ever present and watchful, maintained his reservations. "I don't like it," he growled during a high-level briefing. "They're too perfect, too accommodating. No advanced civilization would be this eager to share their technology without expecting something in return." His words fell on deaf ears. The world was caught up in a frenzy of hope and anticipation. As the day of the Whispers' planetfall approached, celebrations erupted across the globe. It was to be a new age of enlightenment, a cosmic renaissance. The chosen landing site was a vast plain in neutral Switzerland, transformed into a high-tech welcoming center. Delegates from every nation gathered, a sea of faces representing the full spectrum of human diversity. Elena stood among them, her heart racing as she watched the sky. A hush fell over the crowd as a shimmering light appeared in the clouds. Slowly, gracefully, a vessel descended. It was unlike anything humans had imagined. Not a cold, metallic craft, but an organic-looking structure that seemed to pulse with inner light. As the ship touched down, a section of its surface rippled and parted. From within emerged the Whispers. They were tall, lithe beings with iridescent skin that shifted colors like the surface of a soap bubble. Their large, almond-shaped eyes surveyed the crowd with what seemed like gentle curiosity. The lead Whisper stepped forward, raising a hand in greeting. When it spoke, its voice was melodious, almost hypnotic. "People of Earth, we thank you for your warm welcome. We come as friends, eager to forge a bond between our worlds." Elena, designated as humanity's chief representative, stepped forward. Her voice trembled slightly as she replied, "On behalf of all humanity, we welcome you to Earth. We look forward to learning from each other and growing together." The formal greetings gave way to a flurry of activity. Scientists eagerly engaged with the Whispers, marveling at the advanced devices they freely shared. Diplomats began discussions about cultural exchange programs. It all seemed too good to be true. In the days that followed, Whisper delegations spread across the globe, visiting major cities and research centers. They brought gifts of knowledge, cures for diseases, solutions to environmental problems, innovations in energy production. Humanity's troubles seemed to melt away in the face of their benevolence. Elena worked closely with a Whisper scientist named Zara, whose insights revolutionized her understanding of astrophysics. "Your people's curiosity is admirable," Zara commented one day, her skin shimmering with hints of blue and green. "It reminds us of our own past." But as Elena delved deeper into her work, she began to notice oddities. Certain areas of research remained off-limits, deflected with vague explanations, and there was something about the way the Whispers interacted with humans, a subtle manipulation that she couldn't quite put her finger on. General Blackwood, meanwhile, had not let his guard down. He noticed things too. An increase in unexplained phenomena, reports of people acting strangely after prolonged contact with the Whispers. But his concerns were dismissed as paranoia by his superiors, eager to maintain the newfound era of peace and prosperity. As the first month of the Whispers' visit drew to a close, a sense of unease began to creep into Elena's excitement. She couldn't shake the feeling that beneath the Whispers' benevolent facade, something else was at work, a hidden agenda that, if her growing suspicions were correct, could threaten the very future of humanity. But with the world caught up in the euphoria of cosmic fellowship, who would listen to her doubts? The stage was set for the next phase of the Whisper's plan, and humanity, in its eagerness to embrace its new friends, might have already sealed its fate. 3 months after the Whisper's arrival, Earth had transformed. Gleaming spires of alien architecture dotted city skylines. Clean energy flowed abundantly, and diseases once thought incurable were becoming distant memories. Yet beneath this veneer of progress, a creeping unease began to take hold. Dr. Elena Reeves couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. Late one night, as she pored over data in her lab, she noticed a discrepancy in the Whisper's transmissions, a hidden signal buried deep within the noise. "Tom, come look at this," she called to her assistant, who had been working late with her. Tom leaned in, his brow furrowed. "It's some kind of code." Elena nodded, her heart racing. "And it's not meant for us to see." As they worked to decrypt the signal, a message began to take shape. What they uncovered chilled them to the bone. Phase 1 complete. Human defenses neutralized. Proceed with neural interface implementation. Elena sat back, her mind reeling. "They're not here to help us," she whispered. "This is an invasion." Before they could process the implications, the lab door burst open. General Blackwood strode in, flanked by a team of grim-faced soldiers. "Dr. Reeves, we need to talk," he said, his voice low and urgent. "But not here. It's not safe." Minutes later, they were in a secure underground facility. Blackwood explained that he'd been running a covered investigation, gathering evidence of the Whisper's true nature. "They're not sharing technology. They're infiltrating our systems," he growled. "Those medical treatments they've been administering, they're altering human biology, making us more susceptible to their influence." Elena's mind raced, connecting the dots. The odd behaviors, the restricted areas of research, the subtle manipulations, it all made sense now. "But why?" Tom asked, his face pale. "Why go to all this trouble?" A new voice answered, making them all jump. "Because direct conquest is messy and inefficient." They turned to see a figure step from the shadows. It was Zora, the Whisper scientist Elena had been working with. But now, her shimmering skin seemed cold and alien. "Zara," Elena gasped. "What are you doing here?" The Whisper's form rippled, its colors darkening. "Ensuring our plans remain intact. We had such hopes for you, Elena. Your mind is exceptional. You could have been the first to receive our gift." "Gift?" Elena spat. "You mean subjugation." Zara tilted her head, her large eyes unblinking. "You see it as subjugation. We see it as elevation. Humanity is chaotic, divided. We offer unity, purpose." Blackwood raised his weapon, but with a flick of her wrist, Zara sent it flying across the room. "Your primitive tools are no match for us," she said, almost sadly. "Why are you telling us this?" Elena demanded. "Because it no longer matters if you know. The process has already begun. Soon, all of humanity will be one with the Whispers. Resistance is inefficient." With that, Zora's form seemed to dissolve, slipping away through an unseen crack in the wall. The room erupted into chaos. Blackwood barked orders into his comm, mobilizing what remained of his loyal forces. Elena and Tom huddled over a computer, desperately trying to find a way to warn the world. But as they worked, reports began flooding in. All over the globe, people were changing. Those who had received Whisper treatments were acting in unison, their eyes glazed over with an alien intelligence. "It's a hive mind," Elena realized with horror. "They're turning us into them." Blackwood slammed his fist on the table. "We need to find a way to stop this, to reverse the process." Elena nodded, her mind already racing through possibilities. "The signal, the one we intercepted. If we can disrupt it, maybe we can break their control." "Do it," Blackwood ordered. "You have whatever resources you need. The fate of humanity is in our hands now." As they set to work, Elena couldn't help but think of how quickly everything had changed. Just hours ago, She had believed in a bright future of cosmic cooperation. Now she was part of a desperate resistance, fighting for the very soul of humanity. Outside, the world continued to change. Whisper ships hung in the sky like silent sentinels, their true purpose now clear. The invasion wasn't coming. It was already here, and it had been silent all along. Elena took a deep breath, steeling herself for the fight ahead. They were outgunned, outnumbered, and facing an enemy of unimaginable technological superiority. But they had one thing the Whispers didn't: the indomitable human spirit. And Elena swore she would fight until her last breath to keep that spirit free. The battle for Earth had begun. In the weeks following the revelation of the Whispers' true intentions, Earth descended into chaos. Cities once gleaming with alien technology now stood as bastions of the invaders' control. Those who had received the Whispers' treatments, now nearly 60% of the global population, moved in eerie unison, their individuality subsumed into the alien hive mind. Dr. Elena Reeves, General Blackwood, and a ragtag group of scientists, soldiers, and civilians had gone underground, literally and figuratively. Their base of operations was a long-abandoned Cold War bunker, retrofitted with salvaged equipment and protected by experimental jamming technology that kept them hidden from Whisper detection. "We're losing ground fast," Blackwood growled, pointing to a map dotted with red markers indicating Whisper-controlled areas. "At this rate, we'll be completely overrun in a month." Elena nodded grimly. She'd aged years in just weeks, the weight of humanity's fate heavy on her shoulders. "But we're making progress on the signal disruption. If we can just find the right frequency." Her words were cut short by a commotion at the bunker's entrance. A group of bedraggled survivors were being ushered in, led by a face Elena recognized: Dr. Amit Patel, a neurobiologist she'd worked with before the invasion. "Amit," she exclaimed, rushing to greet him. "We thought you were. How did you escape?" Amit's eyes were haunted, but a spark of determination burned within them. "I was in their labs, Elena. I saw what they're doing to people. It's not just mind control. They're rewriting human DNA, turning us into them." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. This wasn't just an invasion. It was an assimilation, a fundamental change to what it meant to be human. "But," Amit continued, a hint of hope in his voice, "I think I found a weakness: the Whisper physiology. It's not adapted to Earth's bacteria. I saw them struggling to control subjects with certain gut microbiomes." Elena's mind raced with the possibilities. "So if we could introduce the right bacteria into their system, we might be able to disrupt their control," Emmett finished. It wasn't much, but it was a start. The resistance now had two potential weapons: Elena's signal disruption and Emmett's biological countermeasure. As the scientists threw themselves into their work, Blackwood focused on building a global network of resistance cells. Using old shortwave radios and encrypted messages hidden in innocuous internet traffic, they reached out to pockets of free humans around the world. Tom, Elena's assistant, had become their tech guru, repurposing Whisper technology to serve the resistance. "It's like they never considered we might use their own tools against them," he mused as he worked on a captured Whisper communication device. Days blurred into weeks as they worked tirelessly. Outside their hidden bunker, the world continued to change. The Whispers began reshaping Earth's environment to better suit their physiology. Strange, alien plants sprouted in once familiar forests. The sky took on a perpetual purplish hue as atmospheric composition was altered. But for every setback, there was a glimmer of hope. Reports trickled in of humans spontaneously breaking free from Whisper control, their innate individuality somehow overriding the alien influence. Each freed mind was a small victory, a reminder of what they were fighting for. Elena found herself working closer than ever with General Blackwood. Despite their initial differences, a deep respect had grown between them. One night, as they pored over plans for their first major offensive, Blackwood surprised her with a question. "Do you ever wonder if we're fighting a losing battle, Doc?" Elena looked up, seeing the weariness in his eyes that mirrored her own. She thought carefully before answering. Sometimes, but then I remember what we're fighting for. It's not just about survival. It's about what makes us human. Our free will, our individuality, our capacity to choose our own path. That's worth any struggle. Blackwood nodded, a rare smile crossing his face. Couldn't have said it better myself. Their moment of solidarity was interrupted by an urgent call from the communications room. A resistance cell in Asia had managed to capture a Whisper outpost. It was a small victory, but a significant one, their first real gain against the invaders. As the bunker erupted in cautious celebration, Alina felt a surge of renewed determination. The road ahead was long and fraught with danger, but humanity was far from defeated. With every small win, every freed mind, they proved that the human spirit was a force to be reckoned with. The Whispers had come to Earth expecting an easy conquest. Instead, they had awakened a sleeping giant. Humanity, with all its flaws and all its strength, was fighting back. And Alina swore they would fight until their last breath, until Earth was free once more. The resistance had risen, and the real battle was just beginning. 6 months into the Whisper's occupation, the tide began to turn. Dr. Alina Reeves stood in the makeshift lab, her eyes fixed on the holographic display. The signal disruptor she and her team had been working on was finally ready for a large-scale test. "If this works," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, "we could free millions in one stroke." General Blackwood nodded grimly. "And if it doesn't, we've just given away our position to every Whisper on the planet." The risk was enormous, but they were out of options. The Whisper's control was expanding daily, and humanity's window for action was rapidly closing. "Do it," Blackwood ordered. Alina took a deep breath and initiated the sequence. The disruptor hummed to life, sending out waves of carefully calibrated energy designed to interfere with the Whisper's neural network. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, reports began flooding in from their global network. All over the world, people under Whisper control were waking up, confused and disoriented but free. "It's working," Tom exclaimed, his fingers flying over the keyboard as he collated the incoming data. "We're seeing a 30% reduction in Whisper control populations. 40%. 50%. The bunker erupted in cheers, but Alina's celebration was short-lived. A new alert flashed on her screen. The Whispers were adapting, changing their signal frequency to counteract the disruption. "No, no, no," she muttered, frantically adjusting the disruptor settings. But it was too late. The liberation slowed, then stopped altogether. "We freed almost 60% of the controlled population," Tom reported, his initial excitement tempered by the setback. Blackwood's face was grim. "And now the Whispers know exactly where we are. We need to evacuate now." As if on cue, the bunker shook with the impact of energy weapons. The Whisper's retaliation was swift and merciless. In the chaotic evacuation that followed, Alina made sure to grab the disruptor prototype and all their research data. They couldn't let this breakthrough fall into enemy hands. As they fled through underground tunnels, Alina's mind raced. The disruptor had worked, if only briefly. If they could find a way to make it adaptive, to change frequencies as quickly as the Whispers. Her thoughts were interrupted by a cry of pain. She turned to see Amit clutching his arm, which had been grazed by falling debris. "I'm fine," he gasped, but Alina could see the wound was worse than he let on. They emerged from the tunnels into a world transformed. The purple sky was filled with Whisper ships, their organic forms pulsing with angry red light. In the distance, freed humans clashed with those still under Whisper control. "This way," Blackwood called, leading them towards a hidden vehicle bay. They piled into rugged, solar-powered trucks, salvaged and modified for their needs. As they sped away from their compromised base, Alina felt a mix of hope and despair. They'd struck a significant blow against the Whispers, proving they weren't invincible. But the cost had been high, and the enemy was now fully aware of their capabilities. Where to now? Tom asked, his young face etched with worry. Blackwood consulted an encrypted tablet. We've got a fallback position in the mountains, old missile silo converted into a research station. If we can make it there. His words trailed off as a whisper ship appeared on the horizon, heading straight for them. But before it could attack, something unexpected happened. The ship faltered, its smooth flight becoming erratic. Look, Elena pointed. All around them, whisper technology was malfunctioning. Ships veered off course, their weapons systems fritzing out. Amit let out a pained laugh. The bacteria, he said weakly. It must be working. In their haste to counteract the signal disruptor, the Whispers had left themselves vulnerable to the biological agent Amit had developed. The Earth's microbes, weaponized against the invaders, were beginning to take their toll. As they watched, the pursuing Whisper ship crashed into a field, its organic structure dissolving upon impact. For the first time in months, Alina felt a genuine spark of hope. They had two weapons now, the signal disruptor and the bacterial agent. If they could refine both, combining the electronic and biological attacks, we might just have a chance, she said aloud. Blackwood nodded, a fierce grin on his weathered face. Then let's make the most of it. To the mountains, we've got work to do. As their convoy sped towards the distant peaks, Alina allowed herself a moment of optimism. The Whispers had underestimated humanity's resilience, creativity, and sheer determination. They thought they were dealing with simple, primitive beings. Instead, they had awakened a force of nature. The war was far from over, but the turning point had come. Humanity was fighting back, and the silent invasion was about to become a very loud resistance. The converted missile silo deep in the mountains had become humanity's last, best hope. For weeks, Dr. Elena Reeves and her team worked tirelessly, refining their weapons against the Whispers. The signal disruptor had been miniaturized and made adaptive, capable of changing frequencies on the fly. Amit's bacterial agent had been weaponized into an aerosol form, ready for mass deployment. General Blackwood coordinated with resistance cells worldwide, preparing for what they all knew would be their final stand. Either they would reclaim their planet, or humanity as they knew it would cease to exist. "We're as ready as we'll ever be," Alina said, her voice heavy with the weight of responsibility. "But how do we coordinate a global attack when the Whispers control most of our communication networks?" Tom, who had grown from a wide-eyed assistant into a hardened resistance fighter, spoke up. "I think I have a solution." He revealed a network of repurposed satellites, a cobbled-together system that could bypass Whisper control channels. "It's not pretty, but it'll get the job done." Blackwood nodded approvingly. "Sometimes the old ways are the best. We go analog, we go loud, and we hit them everywhere at once." The plan was audacious in its simplicity. Using their hidden network, they would trigger a cascading series of attacks across the globe. As the signal disruptors freed minds from Whisper control, resistance fighters would deploy the bacterial agent, weakening the aliens' hold on Earth's biosphere. As the day of the attack dawned, Alina found herself standing before a gathered crowd of resistance members. Faces looked up at her, a mix of hope and fear in their eyes. "For months, we've been fighting from the shadows," she began, her voice gaining strength as she spoke. "We've lost friends, family, our very way of life. But today, we take it all back. The Whispers thought they could silence us, could strip away what makes us human. But they underestimated us. Our creativity, our resilience, our unwavering spirit. These are the weapons they cannot counter. Today, we show them the true power of humanity." A cheer went up from the crowd, a roar of defiance that seemed to shake the very mountains. As the sun rose, the attack began. All across the planet, hidden resistance cells sprang into action. Signal disruptors were activated in major cities, their effects rippling out in waves. People who had been under Whisper control for months suddenly found themselves free, disoriented, but quickly rallying to the cause. In the skies, hijacked aircraft sprayed the bacterial agent, targeting whisper ships and their organic technology. The effects were immediate and dramatic. Whisper vessels began to falter, their living structures degrading under the assault of Earth's microbes. Alina and her team coordinated from their mountain base, directing the flow of battle as best they could. Reports flooded in from around the world, victories and losses, heroic stands, and heart-wrenching sacrifices. In New York, a group of freed firefighters used their equipment to spread the bacterial agent through skyscrapers that had been converted into whisper hives. In Tokyo, hackers turned the city's massive digital billboards into signal disruptors, freeing thousands in minutes. Across the African savanna, tribal warriors who had resisted whisper control from the beginning now led the charge, their intimate knowledge of the land proving invaluable. But the whispers didn't go down without a fight. In many places, they lashed out with terrifying weapons, willing to destroy what they couldn't control. Cities burned, landscapes were scared, and countless lives were lost in the chaos. As the battle raged, Alina worked feverishly to adapt their weapons, countering each whisper attempt to regain control. It was a war fought not just with physical weapons, but with science, with will, with the very essence of what it meant to be human. Hours turned into days as the global uprising continued. Slowly but surely, humanity began to gain the upper hand. Whisper-controlled zones shrank, their ships fell from the sky, and the alien influence over Earth began to wane. A week into the offensive, Alina received a transmission that made her heart soar. The resistance had taken control of the original Whisper landing site in Switzerland. The central hub of the alien invasion was now in human hands. As she shared the news with the team, Alina allowed herself to feel something she hadn't in months: true hope. They were far from victory. The cost had been unimaginably high. But for the first time since the Whispers arrived, the future looked bright. Humanity had risen, united in a way never before seen in history, and in doing so, they had proven that the human spirit was a force that could not be conquered, not by any power in the universe. The silent invasion had been met with a deafening roar of defiance, and that roar was spreading across the planet, heralding the dawn of a new era for humanity. The battle for Earth had raged for a month. Cities lay in ruins, continents bore scars visible from space, but humanity stood on the brink of victory. The Whispers' hold on the planet had been reduced to a few isolated pockets, their once mighty fleet now a graveyard of biomechanical debris scattered across the globe. In the converted missile silo that had served as humanity's last stronghold, Dr. Alina Reeves stood before a bank of monitors, watching as the final coordinated assault unfolded. General Blackwood, his face etched with the toll of war, stood beside her. To think, Alina mused, a year ago, we thought they came in peace. Blackwood nodded grimly. And now we know the price of naivety, but also the strength of human resolve. Reports flooded in from around the world. In Australia, Aboriginal trackers led a guerrilla force that outmaneuvered the last Whisper stronghold in the outback. In the Amazon, a coalition of indigenous tribes and scientists used the rainforest itself as a weapon, amplifying the effects of the bacterial agent. And in Antarctica, a team of international researchers turned their isolated station into a command center, coordinating the Southern Hemisphere's resistance. As the last Whisper ship fell from the skies over the Sahara, a cheer erupted in the control room. Tears of joy and disbelief mingled on faces that had known only grim determination for so long. But Alina's celebration was short-lived. An alarm blared from her console, drawing all eyes. "What is it?" Blackwood demanded. Alina's fingers flew over the keyboard. Massive energy spike from the Swiss base. The Whispers, they're activating something. On the main screen, a view of the original landing site appeared. The ground was splitting open, revealing a massive structure that had been hidden beneath the Earth's surface. "It's a ship," Tom gasped. "It must be their main vessel." As they watched, the gigantic craft began to rise, preparing to leave the planet. "Amit, his arm still in a sling, spoke up. "They're running. We've won." But Elena shook her head, her face pale. "No, look at the energy readings. That ship, it could destroy the entire planet if it wanted to. This isn't a retreat. It's a last-ditch attempt to either reclaim Earth or destroy it entirely." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Everything they had fought for could be undone in moments. Blackwood's voice cut through the tension. "Options, people. I need options now." For a few heartbeats, no one spoke. Then Elena straightened, a fire in her eyes. "We have one shot. If we can get aboard that ship, we might be able to use our combined weapons, the disruptor and the bacterial agent, at the source. Shut them down from the inside." "That's suicide," Blackwood said, but there was a note of grudging admiration in his voice. Elena met his gaze steadily. "Maybe. But it's the only way to ensure humanity's survival." In the end, it came down to a small team. Elena, Blackwood, Tom, and a handful of their best fighters. They commandeered a partially repaired Whisper scout ship, using the knowledge they'd gained over months of reverse engineering alien tech. As they approached the massive Whisper vessel, Elena felt a strange calm settle over her. Whatever happened next would determine the fate of her species, of her world. The enormity of it was almost beyond comprehension. Their small craft docked with the Whisper ship, the alien defenses recognizing it as one of their own. As they made their way through the organic corridors, they encountered surprisingly little resistance. Most of the Whisper's forces had already been deployed and defeated on the surface. In the heart of the ship, they found what they were looking for: the central node of the Whisper's hive mind. It pulsed with an otherworldly light, tendrils of energy stretching out in all directions. "This is it," Elena said, readying the disruptor. "Once we activate both weapons here, it should cascade through their entire system." As they prepared to launch their final attack, a familiar voice echoed through the chamber. "Ah, Elena, I had hoped you would come." Zara, the Whisper scientist who had once worked alongside Elena, emerged from the shadows. But she was changed, her form more ethereal, as if she was becoming one with the ship itself. "Your resilience is admirable," Zara continued. "Truly, we underestimated humanity's potential." "Then surrender," Elena pleaded. "It's over. Leave Earth in peace." Zara's expression was almost sad. "I'm afraid that's impossible. We are too intertwined now. Your world's fate, and ours are one." "No," Elena said firmly. "We decide our own fate." With that, she activated the disruptor. Tom released the bacterial agent, and Blackwood opened fire, years of pent-up rage and determination behind every shot. The effect was immediate and catastrophic. For the Whispers, the ship shuddered, its organic components writhing in distress. Zara's form began to dissolve, her last expression one of shocked disbelief. "We need to go now," Blackwood shouted over the din of alarms and telepathic screams. They ran for their ship, the massive Whisper vessel crumbling around them. As they sped away, they watched the enormous craft begin to fall, breaking apart as it re-entered the atmosphere. In the days that followed, as the dust settled and the last vestiges of Whisper influence faded from the Earth, humanity began the long process of rebuilding. But they did so with a new understanding of their place in the universe and of their own strength. Elena stood on a hill overlooking the ruins of a city, watching as people worked together to clear rubble and repair buildings. The sky above was blue again, no longer tainted by alien influence. "What do you think they'll write about us in the history books?" Tom asked, coming to stand beside her. Elena smiled, a mix of weariness and hope in her eyes. "They'll write that when faced with an impossible threat, humanity didn't just survive. We rose, we fought, and we won." As the sun set on a free Earth, Elena knew that whatever challenges the future held, humanity would face them together. They had stared into the abyss of extinction and emerged stronger. The silent invasion had failed, and in its wake, A new dawn had broken for all of humankind.